कृत्यं नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरयेत् नस्तप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवत्युत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। हरे कृष्ण। सौनक उवाच सुता सुता महाभागा वद नो वदतं वरा कथं भागवतं पुण्यं यद् अह भगवान् चुका। हरे कृष्ण।
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Shashwin. In spite of being in the car, you're so dedicated that you have joined us. Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Hare Krishna. So we can repeat the shloka. Divesh Prabhuji, do you have the Bhagavad, Srimad Bhagavatam with you?
Hare Krishna, Mataji, yes.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 4. And the text for today is text 2. Is it possible for you to read the text and then we can repeat after you?
Sure. This is it Saunaka Uvacha?
Yes, Shonaka Vacha.
Okay. Saunaka Uvacha.
Shonaka Vacha.
Suta Suta Mahabhaga.
Suta Suta Mahabhaga.
Vadano Vadatam Vara.
Vada no Vadatam Vara.
Katham Bhagavatim Punyam.
Katham Bhagavatim Punyam.
Yada Bhagwan Shuka.
Yada Bhagavan Chuka. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
We can you can read it once more, Prabhuji, and then we can go to word translation and purport.
Saunaka Uvacha.
Shonaka Vacha.
Suta Suta Mahabhaga.
Suta Suta Mahabhaga.
Vadano Vadatam Vara.
Vada no Vadatam Vara.
Katham Bhagavatim Punyam.
Katham Bhagavatim Punyam.
Yada Bhagwan Shuka.
Yadha Bhagavan Shuka. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Divyesh Prabhuji.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna Madhurupa Mataji, are you back from India?
Hare Krishna Mataji. No, I am in India still.
Oh, you are joining into us. It's late over there. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have the Srimad Bhagavatam with you?
Yes, I have.
Okay. Mataji, can you do the word to word and probably the translation and purport, if possible?
Okay. Shaunaka.
Shonaka.
Shaunak.
Shonak.
Uvacha.
Uvacha. Said.
Suta, O Suta Goswami.
Suta, O Suta Goswami.
Mahabhaga, the most fortunate.
Mahabhaga, the most fortunate.
Vada, please speak.
Vada, please speak.
Naha, unto us.
Naha, unto us.
Vadatam, of those who can speak.
Vadatam, of those who can speak.
Vara, respected.
Vara, respected.
Katham, message.
Katham, message.
Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavatam.
Bhagavatam, of the Bhagavatam.
Punyam, pious.
Punyam, pious.
Yat, which.
Yat, which.
Aha, said.
Aha, said.
Bhagwana, greatly powerful.
Bhagwana, greatly powerful.
Sukha, Sri Sukadev Goswami.
Shukha, Sri Shukadev Goswami.
Translation. Shaunaka said, O Suta Goswami, you are the most fortunate and respected of all those who can speak and recite. Please relate the pious message of Srimad Bhagavatam, which was spoken by the great and powerful sage Shukadev Goswami. So I read again purport also, Mataji.
Would you like to? Otherwise, I can read as well.
Okay, you can read.
Okay. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Yes.
Suta Goswami is twice addressed herein by Shaunaka Goswami out of great joy because he and the members of the assembly were eager to hear the text of Bhagavatam uttered by Shukadeva Goswami. They were not interested in hearing it from bogus persons who would interpret in their own way to suit his own purpose. Generally, the so-called Bhagavatam reciters are either professional readers or so-called learned impersonalists who cannot enter into the transcendental personal activities of the Supreme Person. Such impersonalists twist some meanings out of the Bhagavatam to suit and support impersonalist views, and the professional readers at once go to the 10th canto to misexplain the most confidential part of the Lord's pastime. Neither of these reciters are bona fide persons to recite Bhagavatam. Only one who is prepared to present Bhagavatam in the light of Sukadeva Goswami, and only those who are prepared to hear Sukadeva Goswami and his representatives are bona fide participants in the transcendental discussion of Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Radhika, Kasturi Mataji. Danvat Pranam. Please accept our humble obeisances on behalf of everybody in this group who have joined and who are about to join, Mataji. Thank you for joining in, Mataji. Mataji, we have read the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, Text 2. We read the translation and purport. We also did our Manglacharan, and now we are handing over to you, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much. Right, let's get started. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye. Srinivata Swagata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridayantasto Hiya Patrani Vidunoti Subritsadam Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Sloke Bhavati Naishtiki Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuru Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prashtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Kauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All right. So good morning, everyone. First of all, I want to pay my humble obeisances to all the devotees here on the call so that I'm able to speak the relevant words of Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, dear devotees. Kindly bless me. First of all, I want to thank this group. Very, very nice to see all the devotees here who are regularly listening to Bhagavatam. Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya is going on here. So very, very honored and blessed to be amongst all of you trying to learn from each other. Thank you so much. All right. Kritika Mataji's request was that I just continue the story and then finish the story from where we left off last time and then move on to today's verse. So if it's okay with everyone, we can do it that way. All right. Thank you. One second. I'll just grab the book. Um, so the first two verses on the 4th chapter of the first canto of Bhagavatam talks about the Shaunakadi rishis glorifying Sutta Goswami. And then they will question about the history of Bhagavatam. Then they are going to talk about the qualities and questions about Sukadev Goswami. How was he perceived at Hastinapur? How did he actually meet Parikshit Maharaj? They will pose that question. And 9 to 12 will talk about questions about Parikshit Maharaj, his birth, his activities and renunciation. And then if you look at the further verses from 14 to 18, it's going to talk about Vyasadeva saw the anomalies and degraded qualities of people of Kali Yuga. So he is definitely going to elaborate on that. And then 19 to 23 is going to talk about to simplify and expand the Veda among Kali Yuga people. He kind of divided it into four, right? 4 Vedas, and entrusted it to his disciples. And then 24 to 25 will talk about he compiled Mahabharata for the Shri Sudas and the Dvijabandhus. And then 26 to 27 will talk about, in spite of all this welfare work, he was not at all satisfied. Who was not satisfied? Vyasadeva was not satisfied at his heart. There was some sort of dissatisfaction in his heart. And then 28 to 31 is going to talk about, despite my vows of worship and writings, I feel incomplete. Maybe because I have not pointed out devotional service. So this is what he comes to realization upon him contemplating on the fact, why am I just dissatisfied? I wrote everything. What's missing? What is that still that I have not written? I mean, what is that people need to do? No. Like that, when he started to contemplate, he found the answer. Okay, I did not glorify enough about devotional service. That is what is the reason for my dissatisfaction. So we see different subdivisions. Shaunaka Rishi's further questions to Shukadev Goswami is one set. And then Vyasadeva, he divides the Vedas into 4 parts and then distributes it to his entrusted disciples. And then Vyasadeva's dissatisfaction and contemplation on the same. And then Narada is now going to visit Vyasadeva. So these are the sections that we would be seeing in the Srimad Bhagavatam 1.4. Again, as I told you, this overview is always necessary for us. And in today's class also, I'll be talking more about why we need to do that. So I will definitely elaborate on that point. So you will understand whenever we ask the question, right, why we do what we do, and when we get a satisfactory answer in our heart, then it becomes easier for us to follow that. And that is something that I have witnessed practically in my life also. And again, with regards to Srimad Bhagavatam, we would have heard stories, we would have heard from a lot of people and things of that nature. But when we read and when we try to follow the Shastras, what does the Shastra say? And when we do our own sort of contemplative study, then that gets into our heart very much. This is why it's important for us to read Srimad Bhagavatam in the association of devotees. That way, we will start contemplating. As I said, Mananam and Nitidhyasanam will definitely happen when we have that sincere desire and longingness to learn Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, so without any further ado, we can get started. As I told you, we will go through the story that I was talking about from last class, and then we will get back to our 4th canto chapter. And then we will go through verse number 2 for today. Okay, so this is the plan. We will tackle it. So remember, sorry. So remember what we saw last time was about Parashar Bhatt, right? Do you all remember that story? It's a very nice story for us to remember the fact what happened to this hunter. He went to this, there was this hunter, and this hunter, I just want to quickly recap that story, because this story should definitely remain in our heart, because obviously we should remember about surrender. For us to help remember our surrender, acharyas have taught us, okay, here are the transcendental stories that will help you remember this aspect of surrender. So that's the point. We saw Parasar was the disciple whom Ramanujacharya was actually speaking about at Yamunacharya's deathbed. And we saw the 3 things, what happened, what did Ramanujacharya promise to Yamunacharya during what were the 3 things that he promised Yamunacharya. And then Parashar Bhatt. So this Parashar Bhatt is the same Parashar Bhatt he spoke about. He said, Ramanujacharya said, what did he say? I will make one of the, I will name one of my disciples in honor of great sage Parasar, who is Vyasadev's father, who wrote Vishnu Purana. And then the third finger of Yamunacharya unclenched when he actually said that statement. And so he was going, this Parashar Muni, he was going through the forest, and in the forest he saw a hunter. The hunter was kind of in a very confused state. He didn't know what was happening. He was completely lost. And then when the saintly person when he saw the saintly person in front of him, he said, may he paid obeisances, and he fell before him. And he started telling him, something really strange happened to me today. And what happened to you? When he asked him, tell me what happened. Why are you feeling sorry about something? He said, I'm a hunter, and that is my means of living. I have a family to feed. I have my wife and everybody. I take care of them at home. What I do is I usually kill animals in the forest, and then I take it home so that we can cook and have it as a meal. But there is this rabbit. It started to behave in a very unusual way with me. It started to, poke me onto my head. It started cuddling me. It started running around my feet clockwise. And, and finally, he also poked into my feet, and I began trembling. Then what happened was I just took this rabbit onto my hand, and I felt sorry for it actually. And then I let it go. So go, dear, I'm not going to hurt you. I'm not even going to do anything to you. Please go, please go, please go. Upon hearing this, Parashar Bhatt's eyes was filled with tears. He shivered and he fainted. Those who stood nearby, his disciples, they started wondering what happened to our Parashar Muni. What's wrong with you? What happened? So now he starts to narrate what happened with him. He is saying, I heard the story and I realized how lucky we are all, how lucky all of us are. Even us, all of us, we are all lucky. This rabbit never read Bhagavad Gita and it never studied any of the scriptures, so as to speak. Hunter, he never promised to save any soul that surrenders onto him. Nevertheless, the hunter could not act against his heart. Whatever that thing was, he couldn't act against it. So when a defenseless rabbit surrendered to this hunter, what did the hunter do? The hunter said, yeah, please, you let you be free. And the rabbit behaved as if he understood everything. That's kind of what the reaction of the rabbit was. So we have to get back to our Bhagavad Gita verse, Sarvadharman Parityajna Mamekam Charanam Vraja Aham Tva Sarva Papipyo Mukshishyami Machuchaha. This is the thing that we need to understand. So when we surrender to Lord fully, then Krishna is there. Krishna, don't worry, Krishna is going to take care of us, right? Whenever a devotee surrenders, Krishna is there to take care of us. This is what surrender is, and we have to completely surrender. And again, we all know about surrender, and we all, to an extent, to our extent possible. It doesn't always, obviously, when we see the scriptures, what surrender is, we don't do complete justice to the surrender. Even though to ourselves, we may think, yeah, I surrendered. But how much we surrender, to what extent we surrender, depends upon the devotion and the mood with which we operate and the consciousness that we have. To that extent, we will surrender. That is the point, right? So we need to understand, a person, he studies the scriptures, and by studying the scriptures, he gets the faith. And God tells, surrender. Whenever you surrender, I'm going to protect you. This is what protection is. And he's going to give us this full sense of protection when we surrender. To the extent we surrender, to that extent he will also extend himself. So that's the point. Now this is to prove the point that by hearing scriptures we understand what surrender is, and accordingly we surrender, and then we from the God we are going to get this aspect of protection, right? So this is one thing. And what is the another way to surrender? That is what we are going to see in today's class. So there is another story that I promised I will tell you, and here is the story. This is from Chaitanya Charitamrita, Antyalila, story of Shivananda Sen, right? Story about Shivananda Sen's dog actually. Shivananda Sen, he set off to Puri with a group of Bengali devotees, Bengali Vaishnavas. The way, obviously, this is the way they used to do before Ratha Yatra. It was around that time of Ratha Yatra they actually left Bengal. They set out before a month, and obviously there was great heat. You can imagine. So they had to go through villages, cross rivers, and then go and reach Puri. It was not an easy task those days to travel, right? Obviously, we have all the transportation vehicles now. Obviously planes are there, so it makes it very convenient for us to move from one place to another place. But those days, this was not the case. They set off on a Padayatra. That's what it is. And Shivananda Sen, he took care of all the Vaishnavas there. And what happened during that process was a dog actually stuck to him. This often happens, right? In India, it's very common. You go around some holy place, the dogs will be roaming here and there, and then they are so humble. These dogs are beaten up very nicely. I mean, beaten up so badly, and they probably are very torn apart when they come to you. So that, I'm talking about the street dogs. So you go there and some dog will follow you. A similar dog also followed right behind Shivananda Sen's Vaishnava group. So when he stuck to them, he thought, oh my God, this guy has surrendered to me. I have to take care of him. So now he's a member of a group. He's a member of the Yatra. Yes, he surrendered, and the person surrendered. I have to somehow protect him. So what he did was, he would, Shivananda Sen personally would take care of this dog. Because this dog has come to him, and he want to make sure that this dog is protected at all points in time. So he would cook some vegetarian food and then feed him. He was kind of well fed. And now, because they walked on with them, naturally, when someone surrenders, the devotee's mood is compassionate. He has this compassionate heart, and he sees Krishna in everybody, right? And obviously, everybody are part and parcels of Krishna. So this, Shivananda Sen, he took care of the dog that has surrendered, and he started to protect him. And obviously, there are so many stories like this, right? I mean, where the Vaishnavas never leave a person who surrenders onto them. They always take care of them. They always protect them. That is the learning point from this. And then what happened now? So Shivananda Sen, as we can see, he was stuck with this dog because the dog followed him. And now we have to understand this story where these people who are going on a yatra, they had to take a boat. And the boatman, he said, oh, this dog is not allowed. I'm not going to, this dog, is going to degrade my boat. I'm not going to allow this dog. You can all go aboard in the boat, but I'm not going to allow this dog. Shivananda Sen, he said, I'll pay you extra money to take care of this dog. And then he paid for the dog. The boatman said, I'm not going to let the dog. So he paid the amount for the dog. And then what happened was, once they reached the other side of the shore, the dog did not get fed actually. Shivananda Sen happened to delay that, and he was detained at the border, and he couldn't come on time to feed the dog. Okay, so now they set up a camp, but they couldn't feed the dog, and because of this, the dog ran away because he was feeling very hungry. Oh my God, I'm very hungry. I have to find food. I have to go and look out for food because nobody fed me. And Shivananda Sen, when he came back, the first thing he asked, oh, where is my dog? And he was told the dog disappeared. He ran away. So he was kind of restless. He took care of him, and he went out and looked for him everywhere. No, he couldn't find the poor dog. And then they went to Puri. Okay, they couldn't find the dog because the dog was not there, and somewhere the dog would have gone, and he couldn't do anything about that. And then when they went to Puri, they saw, to their surprise, this dog, the same dog, was sitting in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Right? So he was sitting in front of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and was actually eating coconut. He would pick up the pulp of green coconut and then bite it and throw the rest to the dog. Imagine, how fortunate is this dog, eating directly the remnants of Mahaprabhu. So the dog was eating, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was instructing him, chant Hare Krishna, and the dog was saying, Hare, wow, wow, like that. So now Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says he didn't chant any other names. He just chanted Krishna, Krishna, like that. So when everyone realized this dog had received the mercy faster than them, those people also, right? And then he was gone and everyone knew he went back. I mean, obviously the time has to come when the dog has to leave this world. And then all the Vaishnavas, they were pretty 100% confident that, oh yeah, this dog must have gone to the spiritual world. That is where it is destined to go. So now, so that is about surrender, meaning this is the second way of surrender. How can we understand this? The first way is when a person hears the promise of Krishna himself through the Shastras and then tries to get trust on the God and then surrenders on to him. The second way is to take shelter of the Vaishnavas or the devotees. The second way is much more efficient. If a person has been able to establish this relationship with Vaishnavas, a true Vaishnava, of course. And here in the story, we can clearly see who the true Vaishnavas were, right? If you take shelter of them, that means what? Our Guru Vargas, they are the ones we have to take shelter of. What does it mean, take the shelter of? Follow the instructions. Follow the instructions of our Guru. That is what is taking shelter of. Because what happens in this process is, because of this attachment to this Vaishnava, because of our attachment to our spiritual master, people start to follow their instructions. Oh yeah, see, for your daughter, even though say for example, you just have a piece of cake, you just love the cake, that flavor of cake is something you always relish. And now your daughter comes home and she sees the cake and she says, Mom, can I have it? Without any hesitation, you will say, just have it. Yeah, go ahead. Even though we want it, we don't mind, because our daughter wants it, we'll say, yes, go ahead and eat it. In a similar way, because of our attachment to our Guru, we will do what he wants us to do, right? This establishment of relationship is very important. A true Vaishnava is whom we have to take shelter of, right? If someone has taken shelter of that Vaishnava never will abandon a soul. So when we take this process of initiation and when we give ourselves to our spiritual master, the spiritual master has taken you and he will give instructions to you so that we are all able to go back home, back to Godhead, right? That is the ultimate purpose of our life. This is what the spiritual master will do. So now we need to understand. So the second way is obviously much more efficient. So taking, if a person is able to, establish this relationship with the Vaishnava, true Vaishnava, then this is second way of surrender, right? It's much more efficient, and we are able to clearly see how this dog took shelter of Shivananda Sen, and how this dog took care of, took the shelter of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and received mercy in that process. And then another point I wanted to talk about is, when we have this, when we have our Guru, and when we serve the Guru with a humble attitude, do service to him. In that way, I mean, obviously following his advice, Vani is also service, and doing any kind of practical service to your Guru and trying to please him. And, obviously physically, whenever he comes, we try to serve our Guru. That's another way. But the mood of service has to be there. And because of our service, spiritual master will be very pleased and he will give that mercy to us in the form of prasad. Prasad is mercy, isn't it? So that way we receive prasad. This is the point. And in certain cases, you may say, oh, Mataji, what do you mean? Serving our spiritual master is not at all possible. He's somewhere, he has thousands of disciples. I don't have a way to say, serve him. In that case, continue serving your Vaishnavas. Continue serving whoever the Vaishnavas that you come across. Continue serving them in a humble way. Okay? So we cannot give, so for that, we cannot give an excuse to say, oh, I don't have chance to meet my spiritual master, so I don't have to serve. No, that's not the point. You serve. The Manasiksha, verse number 8 talks about this point. Oh, wow, what happens, if you don't, Manasiksha verse 7 says, you have to obviously serve, because the 6th verse talks about Pratishta, right? The Manasiksha 6th verse by Raghunath Das Goswami, it talks about, I have this honor, I'm very much craving for honor. I want to be praised by everybody. I want to have this Pujala Pratishta. This kind of feeling is always in me. How can you get rid of this, oh mind? Raghunath Das Goswami, he's giving us an explanation. The only way we can get rid of this Pujala Pratishta is to surrender on to the exalted lotus feet of an exalted devotee. That is the way we can actually get rid of our last snare of anartha, which is desire for name, fame, glorification, and all that. When we have this desire of name, fame, and glorification, we cannot go to Krishna. It becomes the path, the gates are closed. So definitely, so what is happening there when you want name, fame, glory? What is happening when somebody praises you? Oh yeah, you did a great job. You rendered great service in the temple. You did the decoration so nicely. You delivered the class so nicely. What happens when somebody praises us? It is that our false ego gets nourished. We are dasanu das. We are trying to repeat the words of our acharyas, right? We are trying to repeat what the acharyas need to be glorified. Krishna needs to be glorified. If something comes to you, you just have to pass on to them because it is their true glory, not our glory. Krishna has given us this instruments. He's using us as an instrument to serve the Lord. That's all. You just have to just feel fortunate that Krishna is using me in this service. I'm glad. Thank you, Krishna, for providing me this opportunity. This must be a mood of devotee. So coming back to Manasiksha, so the way that you can get rid of this is by serving the exalted devotees. And now the question arises, what if I'm not able to come across an exalted devotee? What happens in such a situation? So now the point that Raghunath Das Goswami brings about is that you continue serving the Vaishnavas that you have, that you are in contact with, and continue to serve them. So by the mercy of Krishna, at one point you'd be able to then serve an exalted devotee, right? It will definitely happen, but till that point, continue serving the Vaishnavas that you're in touch with. This is the understanding, dear devotees. So hope you're satisfied with this explanation on the story. And if you have, so if you don't mind, I'm going to move on to our today's verse, which is what is the topic for discussion. All right. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So we will move on to our today's verse. As I told you, today's verse is about Shaunakadi Rishi glorifying Sutta Goswami, right? It's beautiful. We have to definitely appreciate, right? So we will look into this verse. I definitely have a lot of things to share as far as today's class goes as well. So let's delve into the topic and understand the point. All right. So here, Shaunakadi Rishi, he says, Sutta Mahabhaga. Double repetition of Sutta means happiness, right? The joy with which he says, Sutta Mahabhago. When people call someone with a name twice, that means it's a special emotional state. We need to understand that. That is what is conveyed here. In this case, it gives joy. He says, Mahabhaga, you are a great, successful person. You are very lucky. Why you are lucky? Because you heard Srimad Bhagavatam from whom? Sukadev Goswami. Such an exalted soul, you heard Bhagavatam from Sutta Mahabhago. Therefore, you have to tell us the essence of Bhagavatam. This essence of Bhagavatam, that is the best of all scriptures, right? Varakatam. It's not just a katha, it's the best of all scriptures. Bhagavatim Punyam. This actually, that which protects the person. Tell us the story of Bhagavatam, which makes our heart calm and clean. Tell us about it. Tell us about it. So this is the eagerness. You can see that, right? How eager is Shaunakadi Rishi saying this to Sutta Goswami. You have to tell us about the story of Bhagavatam that is going to cleanse our heart and make the heart calm and clean. You please tell us, as told by Sukadev Goswami, Bhagavan Shuha. Bhagavan, Sukadev Goswami is called as Bhagavan here. And Shaunakadi Rishi is calling Sukadev Goswami as Bhagavan. Now we have to definitely understand, why is he called Bhagavan? We know who Bhagavan is. Bhagavan, who is he? Aishwaryasya, Samagrasya, Viryasya, Yashasya, Shriya, Jana, Vairagyasya, Yasho Chaiva. That is what Vishnu Purana says, right? He defines Bhagavan is the one who has 6 opulence, that too in full, complete full. But here, Sukadev Goswami is calling who Bhagavan? So Shaunakadi Rishi is calling Bhagavan as Sukadev Goswami. Again, the Vishnu Purana, it gives us a different definition of Bhagavan. We need to understand the two Bhagavans, right? We understood, okay, the Bhagavan is the one who has 6 opulences. He has 6 virtues, six riches, which talks about the greatness of the Lord. That is one Bhagavan. But again, from a context perspective, we have to look into it. The same Vishnu Puran gives different definition of Bhagavan. And we need to understand what does that definition of Bhagavan mean in order for this verse to be complete, so that we understand the essence of this verse. Again, we always come back to this point. What is the essence? What is the essence, right? So we need to understand and keep ourselves reminding the essence. This is what has to keep ringing to us. Okay, let's understand what is the second meaning of this Bhagavan. The Vishnu Purana says. So, Ayatim Nayatim Chaiva Bhutanam Agatim Gatim Betim Vidya Avidyam Cha Chavacha Bhagavan Iti. The definition of another Bhagavan in Vishnu Puran. This is what that definition is. And one who knows Ayatim Nayatim Chaiva, what is good and what is bad for a person. One who knows this, what is good and what is bad. Bhutanam Agatim Gatim, the goal where the living entity will go depends on what? Depends on how he lives this life. Because what happens this life, you're actually preparing yourself. This, whatever actions that you're doing actually is determining what type of body you will have in your next birth. An intelligent person will take the right action so that he gets the right kind of body the next time, isn't it? Or the still more intelligent person, he never wants any gross or subtle body. He just wants to go back home, back to Godhead. That accordingly, he will prepare his consciousness. Accordingly, he will do the sadhana in the right way. So one who knows what is good and what is bad, and then one who knows the goal of where a living entity will go, depending on how he lives, wherever he is. And the third thing is Vetim Vidyam Cha Avidyam Cha, the one who knows what is knowledge and what is ignorance. Such a person possesses the 3 qualifications. These 3 qualifications is also called Bhagavan, which is what Vishnu Purana says. Are you all able to understand this? Very important. What are the 3 things? One, what is good and what is bad. And he knows the goal where a living entity will go, depending upon how he lives this life. And then third thing is, what is knowledge and what is ignorance? If he's able to know this, then he also has a qualification of Bhagavan. In other words, a person who knows Sambandha Gyan, Abhideya, and then Prayojan. If he understands these 3 things, he knows the purpose, where the person will go if he behaves in a certain way. He knows how to act and what he should do, what he should not do. He knows the purpose and activities. If that, when a person has these 3 qualifications, again has an understanding of Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojan, such a person is called Bhagavan. What kind of person is this? Why is he called Bhagavan? When we ask this question, you have to understand Sutta Goswami's spiritual master is Sukadev Goswami. He is a spiritual teacher. And about the spiritual master, what do we read every day when we sing the song? Sakshat Dharitvena Samasta Shastre. Sakshat. This is a very important understanding. Shaunakadi Rishi here calls Sukadev Goswami as Sakshat Bhagavan. You heard this Bhagavan, right? The spiritual master, Bhagavan is transmitting the Bhagavatam by parampara. Right? Through our parampara, we are able to listen to this transcendental knowledge, which is explained here. When a person who has this real realization, right? Real realization, what that person, when he has that real realization, what does that person do? The person passes it on through our parampara. That is the wonderful quality, which is, obviously, we are talking about the wonderful quality of Sukadev Goswami, and how Sutta Goswami is glorified by Shaunakadi Rishi, saying, Sutta Mahabhago. That emotional state is described here, isn't it? I'm sorry. Mataji. So that feeling of emotion is being described here by Shaunakadi Rishis. And so here we see the glorification of both Sukadev Goswami and Sutta Goswami. How Shukadev Goswami is glorified as Bhagavan, and how, because Sutta Goswami learned it from Shukadev Goswami, he's the right person to pass this message on to us. So very, very important. And now, if you look at the eagerness of Shaunakadi Rishi, how is his eagerness? Wow, he's waiting. Oh, please tell us, Srimad Bhagavatam, we want to hear from your lotus lips, like that. When he says that, we can definitely see the mood with which he's actually saying this to Sutta Goswami, right? It is the eagerness. And Rupa Goswami, he explains in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, if somebody wants to purchase Krishna, if somebody wants to develop the love of Godhead, what is the price? How much should I pay to get this taken care of? What is the amount? I'm ready to write a check. No money can replace this. It's the intense eagerness, right? Intense eagerness to hear Krishna Katha, intense eagerness to chant the glories of the holy names of the Lord, intense eagerness to perform devotional service to the Lord. This is the expression of our devotion towards the Lord. This is the price one needs to pay if someone wants to purchase Krishna. This eagerness is what is important. And that is got only by the grace of the Lord. Only by the grace, only by his mercy we can have that eagerness. Right? Krishna, he sees our endeavor. Of course, our endeavor, oh, does it mean, Mataji, I don't have to put endeavor? No way, we have to put in our endeavor. We know in Yashoda Mata, when she was trying to tie Krishna to the mortar, she was always 2 fingers short. But she kept trying. And then Krishna, he said, yeah, since she's putting her endeavor, let's just make sure that she's able to tie me. It's Krishna's mercy that has to descend down upon us to have this eagerness, intensity of devotion. But we need to put in our endeavor. So this is what Sukadev Goswami explaining all. So the most important qualification is eagerness to hear. So Radhanath Maharaj, during one of his sessions, he was explaining about the importance of digestion in our Ayurveda. Digestion is given a lot of importance, because if your digestion is good, then you can be free from so many diseases. If your digestion is hampered, if it is not good, then what happens? So many diseases occur in our body. So all the, even though there is nutritious food, it can be distributed if there is good digestion. It can be distributed to different parts of the body. If it is, obviously, if there is, with the help of good digestion, then we can get nourishment. Nutritious food, even if it is there, if you don't have the digestion, it is not going to be helpful. So similarly, to adopt and imbibe the teachings and the message of Srimad Bhagavatam and the Acharyas, the eagerness has to be there. That is the digestive fire to develop devotional service. That is the eagerness or our enthusiasm. It's always hampered by what? It is always hampered by laziness. Laziness basically is not understanding the importance. When we become lazy to the activities of devotional service, then obviously we cannot progress in devotional service, right? I don't need it. I don't, you know what, I'll just do it some other time. I'm very tired. I'm not interested. All this, again, there's some kind of disposition. I mean, obviously we're all ruled over by illusion. When illusion happens, we just kind of go apart, fall apart. Another important point that I want to bring about here in today's class is with regards to sadhana. During the time of sadhana, if we keep performing our services, what happens when we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, all the services that we'll be doing today, any service that you have, yeah, you know what, I have to be delivering class, and that class, the lecture, whatever lecture topic that you have, that will be going on in your head. That is not what giving importance to your sadhana means. When we are chanting the holy glories of the holy names of the Lord, even though we may think, yeah, this is devotional thing only I'm thinking about, instead of material stuff, what I have for the day, I'm just thinking about devotional stuff. No, not at all. At the time of sadhana, it should be our sadhana. Again, when I say this, I'm no exception. And I definitely want to reiterate this point over and over into my head, so that all this is felt in my heart as well. So devotees, please, pardon me or excuse me if I'm crossing my limits. But again, it is an advice for myself. And then, if you like it, you can take it as an advice. So definitely this, we should give importance to our sadhana. When we are doing a sadhana, we have to focus on that job, that particular activity of service, and be absorbed in that service as much as possible. We have to keep telling ourselves, we have to have Krishna in the center. Krishna, that name is not different from Lord Krishna. So when you're able to understand and realize that, then you will have only Krishna in the center and not you in the center. Because we are having us in the center, we keep thinking about ourselves. How am I going to deliver? What is the subject matter? What are my kids going to do? What are their activities? What is that I have to cook? So many things come to our mind because we are having ourselves in the center. But the point is, we have to have Krishna in the center. When we have Krishna in the center, then we serve him. See, chanting is service to the Lord. What do we ask for? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. We just say, Krishna, Radharani, please give service to me. And when we are given that service opportunity, we have to make sure to follow that service with a humble mood and give ourselves to Krishna at that point in time. So this is an important requirement for us. We may be we may be pushed by Maya. So I mean, obviously our mind will distract us, but we have to keep telling and reminding ourselves and bringing back our mind to bring Krishna in the center. Okay, and always remember the goal. Our goal is to go back to Krishna. So now Krishna is there in the form of a holy man. When we are not able to address him, then how will we be able to address him when we go back to Goloka, right? It's not possible. So we have to address him now and take care of him, do service to him nicely by chanting very nicely with full absorption, right? When we are able to do that, then we'll be able to do service, personal service in Goloka Vrindavan. So this type of, I mean, obviously we are discussing about a point where our sadhana is very important, because without our sadhana, our service will not be fulfilled. So when we do our sadhana perfectly, then the whole day we can remain and be able to take care of the attacks of Maya. This is a point. So in order to fight against Maya, we need the strength. And where does that strength comes from? The strength comes from sadhana. Okay, okay. Are you all able to understand? So this is the point I wanted to say. So very important for us to tackle Maya. The only way we can tackle Maya is by performing proper sadhana. When we pay attention, when we are eagerly and enthusiastically paying attention to the sadhana, then Lord will give us strength to kind of fight with the Kali Yuga, the mind that plays so many tricks on it plays so many tricks on us. It can do anything, right? And for this reason, all the sages are coming along. 80,000 sages, Shaunaka the Rishi, all the 80,000 sages, they are all gathered to hear Srimad Bhagavatam. So the sages felt that they have the urgent need to listen to Srimad Bhagavatam for their own life. But the second important thing is, which is even more important for them, is the whole world has to benefit by hearing this katha. That is why we want you to share Shuta Goswami. That is why we want you to share Srimad Bhagavatam. Because the whole world, not only we, but the whole world has to benefit out of this transcendental knowledge. This is the reason why we want you to say something to us. So when it comes to listening, obviously there are 4 kinds of correct listeners. Let's see what the Skanda Puran says. This is coming from Bhagavad Mahatmya, and it's given in the Skanda Puran about 4 kind of correct listeners. Chataka bird. What does this Chataka bird do? This person who's like a Chataka bird, he hears. He's truly attached to hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, and he doesn't want to listen to anything else. No, I'm not listening to anything else. Only Srimad Bhagavatam. Like Chataka bird, it wants the rainwater to come. Then only it will drink. It will not drink any other water. Like that, this person, he wants to hear only Srimad Bhagavatam and no other literature. Then a swan. What does the swan do? When he listens to others, his attention is directed to Krishna. It does not linger anywhere else. Right? This is very important. A parrot, what does it do? It hears and repeats. in front of the teacher and in front of others too. And then a fish, it holds its breath, it listens to Srimad Bhagavatam, afraid that if I breathe, I will miss some portion of Srimad Bhagavatam. That is how it is, trying to enjoy each and every sound of Srimad Bhagavatam. So these are the different ways with which people enjoy and relish Srimad Bhagavatam. As I told you before, Srimad Bhagavatam is Samadhi Bhasha. Samadhi Bhasha. Samadhi Bhasha means it is spoken by a person in trance. And what is the qualification of a listener? The listener has to be in trance as well to understand the message of Srimad Bhagavatam. So obviously an important point to note down here for all of us devotees is that Srimad Bhagavatam has to descend down upon us. It's only the mercy of Krishna with which we'll be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam, because it's Samadhi Bhasha. That is called Aprakrita Vachana, meaning it has to descend down. It's through the mercy of Krishna that we'll be able to understand a teeny tiny bit of what Srimad Bhagavatam offers us. It's not our endeavor, no. We have to put in our endeavor, of course, but the mercy has to come down. And this devotional maturity actually increases through the mercy of Krishna. It's not in our control. So we definitely have to be in the mood of service when we listen to Srimad Bhagavatam. Yes, please Krishna, help me understand what is the essence of today's verse. What is the essence of the whole canto? Please help me understand. Then only Srimad Bhagavatam will reveal to us. That is the mood we need to operate on. So we saw about 4 kinds of listeners, right? I mean, correct listeners. There is also improper listeners. What is this? This is very important, because how we should listen and how we should not do. I mean, we definitely need to understand both the ends to the spectrum. If we understand one and not the other, then we'll be kind of stuck between. So wolf, it begins to howl. A deer, it scatters in horror. It wants nothing else, but some people are there. They want to always ask questions. Just for asking some kind of questions to the person who's giving Bhagavatam, they'll be there. That's the purpose of them. Then there's this kind of bird called Burunda. It listens only to tell others later, not to follow. Okay, I'm not going to follow anything, but I just want to tell about this to others. Then there's a bull. It tastes both good and bad with an equal appetite. Okay, so we always take good, but here it's tasting both something good and bad, and takes it with an equal appetite. That is bull. And the camel, very very relevant in today's context. Hurrying up to the internet to find out what is there. You may be listening to Katha, but your hands are not free. It's tied up, browsing, clicking, tick 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 tick, and going to different sites. That is what an improper listener will do. So these are Skanda Purana's definitions of what an improper listener would do when it comes to hearing of Katha. So this I thought was very relevant and very practical in today's day and age. Given the phone, given the internet connection, we just try to misuse it to the extent possible. So obviously that's where camel comes into play and tells us, yeah, this is the mentality of a camel. Because what does the camel do? The camel thinks, it sucks its own blood and thinks it's so sweet, right? So this is the mentality of a camel. Again, one more important, okay, maybe next class I'll just try to talk about this important concept, because we are running out on time. I really don't want to take the full hour, because I want to leave it for question and answers in case any. So let's just conclude here. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you, dear devotees. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you very much, Mataji, for this lovely class today. We learned a lot of things today, new things today. Are there any questions or comments? Hare Krishna. Mataji, I just wanted a clarification in the 4 types of non-listeners. The first one, was it an owl, or we started with deer?
Yes. So the first one was improper listener, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, wolf. it begins to howl, and then dear, it scatters everyone in horror. Meaning the intention here is that we are giving this comparison to say this person who's sitting there, he just wants to ask question. That is his intention. He doesn't want to understand the essence or whatever that's going on, but he just wants to ask the speaker some kind of question. That's why he's there. We just interrupt and ask questions, which is the only motive of this person.
Thank you, Mataji. Any more questions or comments? If there are no more questions or comments, I can hand over to Arya Govindas Prabhuji. Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Actually, I will begin with a question. Actually, I wanted to ask, like when we are chanting and when we are requesting for some service, so like we'll be inclined to some kind of a service, like the cooking or cleaning or any kind of service what we're inclined. So like should we continue to request that kind of a service, or what should be our mood to ask for any service when we chant?
So the thing is, we should be in a prayerful mood, completely with absorption to the chanting of the holy names of the Lord. And that mood of service should be in a prayerful mood. That's what Prabhuji, with devotion, that when we do, I mean, you don't have to obviously go into the specifics, and because that might divert you and get you on a different track altogether. Getting into what kind of service, specifically what, in that what. I mean, we don't have to go into that intricacies. Basically, Krishna, the service. Whatever service, I request you service, but again, with that prayerful mood, the main thing is we have to listen the holy names, each and every syllable, very attentively and very carefully, Prabhuji. As long as we are able to do that in the prayerful mood, when we request this service in a prayerful mood, then that's perfectly fine. It should not distract us from chanting, because that is the essence. Each and every syllable has to be heard, and it has to get it, because what we are doing in this process of chanting is we are trying to establish relationship with the Lord. Krishna, I want to, the more number of times where we chant, then we establish, to that extent, Krishna's relationship will be revealed to us more and more and more. So to the extent we absorb ourselves in the holy names of the Lord, to that extent that relationship will become firmer and firmer and firmer. That's the point. The Sambandha Gyan gets established when we chant the holy names of the Lord. Okay,
thank you, Mataji. I had another, connected question. Like suppose, somebody gives us a service that probably, we may not like it personally in the sense, but it is coming from our seniors, and then we may not like it personally, but we still have to do it as a matter of service to them. So then the mood changes, that okay, I'm not liking this service, but still it is given to me. So then how to correct that, Mataji?
Yeah, so this is raga and dvesha. We are stuck into this material world because of raga and dvesha. What is raga? Raga is likes. And what is dvesha? Dvesha is dislikes, right? The raga and dvesha is what is keeping us bound in this material world, because we are attached to something or the other. Because see, what is likes? Likes means I'm happy doing this. There is an emotional state there. See, each and every action that we perform has an impression in our mind. When I perform an action, my mind immediately connects it with an emotion. Am I going to feel happy or sad? When I get this feeling, yeah, you're going to be happy, Radhika, you should just perform this. So we get a trigger all the time that we want to be happy, happy, happy. I keep repeating the same actions over and over and over. But again, what does Shastra say? Shastra say very important point. It's not about your liking and dislike. No, Radhika, don't forget about yourself. You know, it's not about whether you like it or not. irrespective of whether you like it or not, you have to see what is Krishna like and what is Krishna doesn't like. What, you have to perform an activity based on what the Shastras say. This is what we have to eventually get to. Okay, so this is what Shastra say. Now, when we are given a service opportunity, when we are struggling sadhakas, we have our likes and dislikes. But when we progress further, it's not our likes and dislikes anymore. It is what Krishna gives, what Krishna, wants from me. It is when we operate with that mindset that, okay, Krishna wants me. I'm used as an instrument in the service of the Lord. Thank you, Krishna. It's not about me. It's not about my liking. I'm not the center here. You're the center. When I perform this act of service in the mood of the servant, of the servant, of the servant of the Lord, then that is what is absorption in service actually means. That is, again, right now we don't have to worry. Okay, if we are not inclined, we can try to convince the person that this is just one alternative where we have to, do it as a duty. If that's what our thing is inclined to, if you don't want to disappoint or disrespect the Vaishnava, we do it as a duty. But eventually we have to get out of this platform of our likes and dislikes. That is the eventual, obviously, it cannot happen in a day. This process of this attitude, this development of consciousness takes time, but we can patiently pray to Krishna to shower his mercy upon us. Hope this helps, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Yes. Thank you so much, Mataji. It really helps.
Sure, Prabhuji.
If there are no other questions, I would like to close this session. Hare Krishna. Okay. Thank you so much, Mataji, for this wonderful session on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and then thank you for the wonderful stories to begin with. It was wonderful stories of the Parashar Bhatt and the other story. So, yes, and also on the points of good listeners and then the bad listeners. So that was also really wonderful, learnings for the day. Thank you so much, Mataji. I would like to request all the assembled devotees to unmute and chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna. Hare Hare. Hare Rama. Hare Rama.
Rama Rama. Hare Hare.
Hare Hare.
Vancha
Kalpatarubhyasya kripasindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.
ऐसी भक्तिवंत संप्रपाद की जय।
Jai.
हर ग्रेस राधिका कस्तूरी माता जी की जय।
All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Mataji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you to your devotees for inspiring me. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mataji.